What's up, Math 6 students? Here we go into Chapter 8. Chapter 8, Section 1, Three-Dimensional Figures. This is pretty cool. We're getting into geometry now, which is the study of shapes and two-dimensional, three-dimensional space, and things that you can actually see for the most part. Okay, here we go. How do I identify prisms and pyramids? Pyramids, like the great pyramids of Giza, which you studied in, hopefully studied in your social studies class when you're studying ancient Egypt, Khufu and Khafre, and all of that kind of cool stuff. Okay, how do I identify prisms and pyramids? And we're going to answer that question in the key idea. So it's going to be nice and quick that we get the answer to this question, and hopefully you'll know it for the rest of your life. Let's go over what a prism is first. A prism is a polyhedron. What? Let's not worry about that word too much yet. It's not that important. What matters right now is that a prism has two parallel, identical bases. The lateral faces are parallelograms. Okay, we'll get to that whole lateral faces thing later. But hopefully you remember what parallel means. And parallel means that you have two sides which are facing each other. I didn't draw it very well. But if these lines went on forever, they would never meet. And if you look at this three-dimensional figure, it's kind of hard to see, but the front is this triangle. Okay, that's the front. And in parallel to it in the back is this triangle back here. And I really did a bad job going over that, so I'm going to try it one more time. That triangle and the triangle in the front are parallel and they're identical. So they're two parallel identical bases. So they get the name base because they're parallel and identical. The lateral faces, I don't know if you all can see this, but they are not parallel. This rectangle that's on the right side here is actually touching the rectangle on the bottom. And both those rectangles are touching the rectangle that's on the other side here. You can barely see it, but it's that rectangle there. In fact, I'm going to go over it to be even more specific. This rectangle in the back, right? You can barely see it. I'm not drawing it very well, but you get it. That rectangle is touching the bottom rectangle along this edge, okay? And this rectangle on the bottom is touching this one on the side along this edge. Okay, so those rectangles are what we call faces. Faces are not the parallel and identical ones. The only parallel and identical ones are the triangles. Well, the shape on this three-dimensional figure, the shape that is parallel and identical is going to be the first word in the name, triangular, because the triangles are parallel and identical. And if there are two parallel identical bases, then it's a prism. So this is a triangular prism. Pyramids are different. Pyramid is a polyhedron that has one base. Now let's look at this base at the bottom. It looks like it's a square. Does that square have a parallel square at the top? No, it just has this point. This little point here, it doesn't have a parallel square. And so this is a pyramid. And the lateral faces are all triangles. And I don't know if you guys can all see this, but you can see that on the side here, we have a triangle. Hopefully you all see that. Okay, so this is a rectangular, or I thought it was a square, but I guess it's a rectangle. A rectangular pyramid, because it doesn't have a parallel base. Like this one, the triangle had a parallel triangle in the back. That's a prism. This one does not have a parallel rectangle at the top, and so it's a pyramid. And then this last little point that it makes here is that the shape of the base tells the name of the prism or the pyramid. So I could have you see that red base? What if that was a triangle for the base? Then it'd be a triangular pyramid. Or if this, instead of a triangle, was a rectangle in the front and parallel in the back, then it'd be a rectangular prism. And we're going to see examples of all of those as we go through this section.